All right, sports fans, it's time for another edition of the Sports Couch, a look at area sports through the eyes of a local athlete, coach, or superfan. The Sports Couch is made possible by People's National Bank, a full-service bank with multiple locations throughout Southern Illinois to serve you. People's National Bank, member FDIC, and an equal housing lender. And made possible by Mount Vernon Title Company, your real estate closing professionals. When you need real estate closings, title searches, contract for deed, or any other legal real estate document, depend upon Mount Vernon Title Company. Who will be on the couch this morning? Let's find out. During week 4 of the high school football season, the Mount Vernon Rams had a home game at Ken Hunt Stadium, finally. Fourth week, and they finally get a home game as the Collinsville Jayhawks came to town. And interesting football game, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but again, the Rams get off to a good early start in the game. They get an early score, look good offensively, and then Collinsville kind of gets on a roll, but then the Rams come back and have a chance to potentially take the lead or win the game and end up falling short by a score of 28-23. And with us is head coach Dan Mings of the Rams to talk about it. And boy, that's one you'd like to get back. I know that's a tough one when you lose a close one like that, especially at home, because you had the opportunities there to win that game.
Well, so far there's 2 we'd like to get back.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like to have Waterloo back. We'd like to have Collinsville back. You know, but you can't go backwards, and you know you don't get to play them twice and 3 more times in a tournament.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is what it is. You get one shot, and if you don't win, you don't win, and we didn't win. So, you know, so we move on to the next thing.
Had some penalties that played a role in the game too, but obviously there's other opportunities that you look at too, both offensively and defensively, that could have made a difference in the game.
Yeah, the penalties were unfortunate, but no big deal. I mean, honestly, they weren't that big of a deal. Of course, you want to play penalty-free and those types of things, but it wasn't that big of a deal. The big deal was getting beat deep down the sidelines for the 4th week in a row, and having an early lead and giving that up, and having wide receivers that are wide open, and just not being able to throw it from the quarterback to the receiver whenever we had, 15 yards and nothing but grass in front of us. So those are the things that haunt you. You know, penalties happen in football, and I think that our penalties were aggressive ones. You know, I really do. To think that we were trying to get out, make something happen, and do some things. I would even take that. If we just can throw the ball from point A to point B and knock down a long pass every now and then, and not give every long throw a catch. Those are the things that are getting old.
Yeah. Rams fall to 1-3 on the season as we move now into week 5. You're going to be taking on the Belleville Althoff Crusaders, a former South 7 Conference team, but they're now a non-conference opponent. They're coming here to the Hunt, and they come in with a record of 2-2, and they lost last week to Marion by an almost identical score that the Rams lost to Marion. So how do you see that?
Well, what's the difference between 1-3 and 2-2? I mean,
yeah, one game.
Yeah, I mean, so we win this one. We're 2-3, they're 2-3. So, I mean, I think as far as the schedule that we played and the schedule they played, and they have great athletes on their side of the ball, and they're good up front. But I think it's a game that could go either way. If we catch a break here and there, maybe not a break. Just stop shooting ourselves in the foot. We've had plenty of breaks throughout the year, but we don't do anything with them. Then we turn around, we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Got to execute.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And I think that they are a very well executed, very well coached team that does what they're supposed to do.
The Crusaders, as far as when you look at their size and whatnot, how do you think they match up with the Rams?
Well, I mean, they've got their D1 quarterback, that's been. I think he's got 5 Division I offers already, So, I mean, it's just another great quarterback that we're seeing this year. And they have a lot of they have a ton of ability to do whatever they want to offensively and defensively. They're just really good. They're just really good. So we know we have our work cut out for us, and hopefully, we do what we need to do and try to remain competitive with them.
We mentioned at the beginning of the season that, the Rams weren't going to be super deep this year, that you're going to have to play a lot of younger guys, and that you couldn't afford to have too many injuries this year, and the injury bug has hit again. And so that happens, but that's something that you still have to work through.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. But we were honest with everybody up front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had to stay injury free and play really solid football. And right now we're not injury free and we're not playing really solid football.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the talent. I will say that all day long. We have the talent. We just haven't been getting the job done, on the field. But you look out here again, and the kids are practicing hard, and they're being coachable, and they're doing what we ask them to do, and and they're very attentive. So why are we? Is it performance anxiety? Why are we not doing what we need to do?
Yeah. Haven't had a chance to really give you an opportunity to talk about your coaching staff this year. You're surrounded by a lot of guys who know a lot about football, and
Yes.
let me give you a chance to talk about all of them and give them kudos for what they do, because it takes an army of guys to do this.
Well, it does, and Coach McCoy has been with me since 2000 when I got hired here the first time, and Coach Fields has been with me, since 2000.
Yeah.
Actually, Coach Turner, we started coaching back in 1993 together, on Coach Curris's staff. We were underclass coaches then. So, I've known the majority. Wendell, I coached in high school. Wayne, I coached in high school.
Yeah.
Blake Deaton, I coached in high school.
Right.
Blake Wheeler, I coached in high school. So all these guys, we have some kind of connection.
For years.
Yeah, for
decades.
Yeah, for decades.
Decades, yeah.
And Coach Dalton, he was on Coach Martin's teams down in Marion in the early 2000s, and I got to know him over the years just because, to me, he was the second best running back I've ever faced. The Ford kid from Althoff was the best I've ever seen, and Chris Dalton was right there with him. We had to play 11-on-1, so having him on our staff has been a big win. And then we have Coach Morrison and Coach Burns, that have sort of. Again, I coached Coach Morrison.
Yeah.
Coach Burns, I would have coached, but he went to Woodlawn, and at that time they were co-oping with Sesser.
Right.
So, it's just decades of knowing these guys and trusting these guys, and they put the work in.
Yeah, and some of those guys do some of the work with the technology and stuff too, and technology is so important in football today too.
Yeah, no doubt. And then Coach Donnelly, who spends most of his days on the road, selling and stuff like that. And then he comes in on Thursdays or Fridays. But, he's coached at the college level. He's coached at Culvis in California, which is one of the perennial powers out in California. He punted and kicked at K-State for his college career. So we're just, and he's a Mount Vernon guy.
Yeah.
So we're just so fortunate. And he went to school with Steve and Paul and Clint, those guys. And so it is everybody wants to do well for the hometown. Everybody wants to do well, and I think that's one of the main things that we've got going for us is everybody's passionate about these kids and about the product we put out, and those types of things.
Yeah, it's certainly a solid football coaching staff, no doubt about it. Well, Friday night is the night. It's Belleville Althoff coming here to Ken Hunt Stadium. Again, it's a non-conference game. They used to be in the conference years ago, but not anymore. But still, it's a game that the Rams hopefully can pick up the win and improve to 2-3. And Coach, we appreciate your time once again, and let's hope for the best this weekend.
Well, let's hope for it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
okay.
Randy.
Thank you.